If you are a Dallas Mavericks fan, you have to be very pleased with the way that this past offseason has turned out for the Dallas Mavericks, as they were unquestionably one of the huge winners of this offseason. Now, while I loved a lot of the Dallas Mavericks moves of this offseason, such as them finally drafting a high-level big with limitless Tyson Chandler potential in Derek Lively, and them bringing in a team-oriented player who hasn't reached their full potential yet in Grant Williams, and no, guys, that wasn't a shot at Christian Wood. Now, while I did love a lot of the Mavericks moves and the overall makeup of this Mavericks roster, the fact remains that this team still has a lot to prove this season. And let's just say that to prove what they need to, they'll have to overcome some massive obstacles. Now, guys, before we go any further, let's go ahead and get a word from today's sponsor. Guys, the NBA season is back, and PrizePicks wants you to start it off with a banger. To open the season, PrizePicks is giving us this free Steph Curry square. If Steph scores over just 0.5 points tonight, then this projection hits. Tonight, I'm going to be pairing Chef Curry up with LeBron James, who should be looking to make a statement on opening night considering his beef with Coach Malone, which we actually went over in depth in my last video. For those of you who don't know what PrizePicks is, it's a skill-based, real money daily fantasy sports game. All you have to do is pick 2 to 6 players and decide if they will have more or less than their PrizePicks projection, and boom. It's really simple, really fun, and a great way to get in on the action. Guys, download the PrizePicks app today and use code COOP to get that first deposit matched for up to $100. Now, I know that you guys have heard me gas up the Mavericks quite a bit on this channel, but I really do love what they were able to accomplish this offseason. Honestly, what I love the most about this team's offseason is that this team was actually able to get that ever so rare temporary long-term commitment from Kyrie Irving. Now, I know that the Mavs re-signing Kyrie might not sound like the most groundbreaking news ever, seeing as the Mavs went 5-11 in 16 games, where Irving would have the opportunity to share the floor with Doncic. But remember that last year's Mavs roster was far from complete, and that building chemistry stuff takes time, which the Mavs have now fortunately bought themselves quite a bit of. Also, for those who have forgotten, there was once reasonable doubt that Kyrie would eventually leave Dallas in free agency when he landed in Dallas. This doubt would gain traction because of Kyrie just being Kyrie, and also due to some very straightforward responses from Kyrie, where he would essentially shut down any and all conversations about his future.
I would love to just have a respect of you guys and everybody the rest of the season of just like continuously asking me that, because it just puts unwarranted distractions on us and our team. And I've dealt with it before, and it's very emotionally draining to ask questions like, what's the long term, what is it?
Regardless, this past offseason, the Dallas Mavericks would re-sign Kyrie to a 3-year, $126 million contract. That 3-year, $126 million contract that Kyrie signed would be perfect for both Kyrie and the Dallas Mavericks. For the Dallas Mavericks, the contract isn't too short, so you don't really have to worry about him leaving. And then at the same time, it's just long enough to lock you into this champion's late prime, which is still incredibly valuable. As for Kyrie, this man gets his money after multiple reports this summer stated that his market would be mediocre at best. He also gets to play for a city that he loves and a franchise that he's now enamored by. According to Kyrie, he now loves the Mavericks so much that he actually wishes that they had the opportunity to draft him back in 2011 when he went first overall to the Cleveland Cavaliers.
I wish I would have got drafted by Dallas initially. You know, obviously they weren't in position in 2011, but just feeling how this organization wraps their arms around the guys. And with me and Luka, we're so skilled. He makes the game so easy for everyone around him. I think we got a lot of open shots last year because of how much attention he garnered. And for me, I was just coming in and trying to alleviate some of that pressure. A few times, I think we were being too passive with one another. We're both killers on the court. Everybody knows it. We want to win, so we just have to continue to have that consistent mentality together.
Guys, just imagine if the Cavaliers never drafted Kyrie Irving and how this would alter the entire state of the NBA as we know it. Does LeBron ever go back to Cleveland if Kyrie isn't there? Does Kyrie Irving somehow have a better career? There are so many questions that I have which need answers. Anyways, guys, long story short, this 3-year commitment from Kyrie was much needed. Not only is it important for continuity reasons, but it also helps to mitigate the loss of Brunson. Losing Kyrie and Brunson in back-to-back years would have been disastrous for a Mavericks team that should be looking to definitely step forward at this point. When you have a generational talent that is 24 years old who has an appetite for winning, you better be doing everything possible to appease that appetite while creating sustainable success. Because if you aren't, then somebody else would be more than happy to. Guys, we've already started to see reports that the Mavericks are fearing that Luka Doncic might request a trade in the summer of 2024 if the team doesn't continue to improve while making significant progress towards contending. According to ESPN's Tim McMahon, the one who initially notified us of this fear, there has also been extreme frustration that has been expressed from Doncic both publicly and privately. Perhaps this is why Mavs GM Nico Harrison said that I don't see any risk at all in trading for Kyrie. I actually see the risk in not doing it. I think that we're all trading for Kyrie if the risk in not doing so is potentially losing Luka Doncic. So mind you that the Mavericks don't just have to worry about losing Luka Doncic via trade request, as Luka hasn't completely ruled out a return to Europe yet, saying that if he were to return one day, that return would be to Real Madrid. As an NBA fan, that return would suck, but as a Madrid fan, it would be amazing to see Luka back dominating where it all started. Now, with the Mavericks needing to get that disgusting taste from last season out of their mouths in desperate need of a good start to this year, the Dallas Mavericks' worst nightmare would brutally come true. October 9th, Luka Doncic would suffer a mild calf strain. This calf strain would occur during a practice just a day before the Mavs' preseason exhibition game against Real Madrid. But despite the strain, Luka would still go on to play 5 minutes against his childhood club. Luka, who wanted to play more and initially downplayed the strain, said that he couldn't play more because he was bothered by some hip pain that he started to feel during training. As time would pass, it would become more clear that whatever was bothering Luka was a little more serious than initially feared. With the Mavericks basically shutting Luka down for the remainder of the preseason, there was still optimism that he'd be ready for the season opener. With that optimism slowly starting to fade, Jason Kidd would come out and flat out say that there would be no timetable for his return, which as a basketball fan is always terrifying to hear. Now, the good news is that we already know that Luka will always be doing whatever it takes to have the fastest return possible. In fact, somehow this man is already seemingly good to go. While I will always welcome a Luka Doncic back to the NBA, I just hope that they're not bringing him back too soon. Which brings me to the bad news. As we all know, Luka plays an incredibly demanding style of basketball, sporting the 3rd highest usage rate in the NBA, only trailing Giannis and Joel Embiid. Not only does he have this astronomical work rate, but he also hasn't had much of a break this summer, fulfilling his international duty for Slovenia. To add to the bad news, I'd say that Luka is currently playing a very dangerous game. Not only did Luka play in the World Cup, not really giving himself much of a break, but while he was playing in the World Cup, he also had some injury issues. Luka, who is an incredibly tough person, was out here admitting that the injuries were bothering him during the World Cup. To quote a post-game Luka, "I haven't slept much. The sensations are still very strange. The legs were heavy. I hope we play better in the next game, but we have to see how my leg will be." To grab another World Cup post-game quote from Luka, "I don't know what to say about my leg. It's not okay." So to get back to the good news, you have Kyrie Irving. Injury problems like this are why you go out and you get a Kyrie Irving. Kyrie is a guy who can help to carry that load while Luka Doncic is out. Kyrie doesn't just raise your ceiling if he's locked in, but he also raises your floor and takes pressure off of your best player, who could surely use a break. Now, as great as Kyrie is, I wouldn't be surprised to see the Mavericks try to make a move for another playmaker sometime this season. Don't get me wrong. Kyrie is more than capable of giving you 27.1 points, 5.1 rebounds, and 5.5 assists like he did this past season. But this man does come with some availability concerns of his own. Guys, I have such high hopes for this duo and team in general, but I know that in order for this team to reach those expectations, that they're going to have to be healthy. Injury-wise, here's to hoping that the Mavs play the long game with Luka going forward. Guys, in the comments below, let me know how many games you have the Dallas Mavericks winning this season. Is there a world where this squad is a legitimate contender? Guys, clicking the video on the screen right now is a great way to support my channel. I'm GetLikeCoop, bringing you guys the scoop until our next upload.